Hey friend, thank you so much for tuning in to the Fit Flock podcast. I'm your host, Lindsey Bush, an online mindset, fitness, and nutrition coach and creator of the Empowered Method. Each week, we're going to be talking all things mindset, fitness, and nutrition. It's my hope to provide you with tangible tips that you can apply to your own health and wellness journey. So with that, let's dive right in. So I think this is a very fitting topic along the lines of the goals of this podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about practical nutrition for weight loss. So basically think of this as nutrition one-on-one if you are attempting to lose weight. We're going to dive into those most important factors. So with that, I want to tell you a little bit about where I've been, and then I'm going to tell you about how to get there if you are going through weight loss or you're going through a journey of your own and you need some more guidance. So over the past 8 years, I've helped over 1,000 people lose weight without going to extremes or engaging in crash dieting behaviors. I believe that weight loss is best achieved by creating lifestyle habits that support sustainable weight loss and weight maintenance. Whatever actions you take to lose the weight, you're going to have to continue to do to keep the weight off. Today, we're going to be talking about the most important areas of focus for weight loss. So I believe that there are 6 keys to sustainable weight loss, those being calories, protein, portions, planning, movement, and mindset. I'm going to walk you through each one of those. So as we go through this, I'm going to give you these reminders of number 1, calories are king. It's the most important thing you're going to pay attention to when we are talking about weight loss. So calories is the amount of energy or fuel contained in food. It's measured in the unit of calories. The number of calories that you need each day depends on factors such as age, gender, amount of lean muscle mass on your body, and your activity level. So if you have too many calories, you will be in a weight gain scenario. If you're eating just enough calories per day, you're going to be maintaining your current weight. And if you're eating below maintenance or in a caloric deficit, you will be losing weight. You cannot lose weight without being in a caloric deficit. So when you're dieting, the key is to find the sweet spot. So where you are in a deficit, so you are effectively losing weight, but you're not in so much of a deficit that you are starting to impact other areas of your life negatively, such as your sleep, sex drive, energy for your workouts, energy just to get through your day, mood, etc. So going bare bones to the lowest possible calories is ill-advised. So how on earth do you determine how many calories you need each day? So this can be really, really complicated, and we tend to overcomplicate it. But to keep it really simple, I'm going to share some really effective online apps and tools that you can use to get you started with a caloric deficit calculation. So a couple really good ones are MyFitnessPal free version will give you a really good look, as well as Macros First. Macrosinc.net is also an excellent free online calculator. So you will go to these apps, you will enter your stats such as age, height, weight, and activity level. It's going to use pre-built formulas and algorithms to determine your calories for weight loss. So there are some limitations to these tools. They can't take into account what your metabolic rate is. It also can't account for how much muscle mass you have on your body. But they are a great starting point. The reason that I mentioned the muscle mass piece is because the more muscle mass you have on your body, the more calories you need in a day to sustain that mass. It costs more to sustain muscle than it does fat. But for most people, this is going to be a really great starting point. This is where I start things out with my clients when I'm helping them calculate what their calories are going to be. So one of those tools is going to be a really great place for you to start. One of the other things that you want to be aware of is that there are some common calorie missteps. And I want to share these with you today in hopes that I can help you avoid some of them to help you get to your goal quicker, because I see these trip people up regularly, and I am guilty of some of them myself. So one thing that tends to surprise people when we're going through their calorie calculations is that most people can eat more calories than they think they can and still lose weight. So if you're working with a coach or if you're working to determine your calories and it's a number that seems higher to you, like for instance, for me, my weight loss calories when I am in a slight to moderate calorie deficit are in the 1,700 calorie range. And to some people that might seem like a lot, especially as women. A lot of times we've been told you need to eat a 1,200 calorie diet. And when I think about eating a 1,200 calorie diet, I'm like, I hope everyone around me is like hiding and staying away, because your girl is going to be hangry. It is not going to be a fun experience for myself or those around me. If it's funny, I laugh when I think about this, because that was the strategy that I used when I was preparing for the wedding, when I got married, almost 15 years ago. And it's so funny because one of my office mates at the time talks about how I was so miserable to be around, because I was eating like 800 calories a day. I was miserable. I felt miserable. I acted miserable. I made everyone around me miserable. It was not fun for anyone. Anyway, but the problem with that is that most people are actually eating way more calories than they think they are. And not all calories are created equal. So you're going to feel much different if you are consuming 200 calories of a well-balanced meal that is heavy in protein versus if you eat 200 calories of Cheetos, for example. Another thing to keep in mind is that liquid calories count. So that drink you get from Starbucks or that wine you have each night, those absolutely are going to have an impact to your calorie budget, right? I like to think of calories, a calorie number as an overall budget. If you exceed your budget, you are going to be going into a weight gain scenario. And if you're eating at your right at your maintenance calories, like we talked about, you're just going to maintain. So it's important that we stay at or below whatever that weight loss calorie number is. The other place that really trips people up is the mindset that calories don't count on the weekend. Now, I truly don't think people go into the weekend and think, oh, calories don't count because it's Saturday or Sunday or whatever. But some of the planning, some of the adherence tends to go out the window because things are a little less structured on the weekends, schedules are different, etc. And so I say that just to bring awareness to weekends are an area of struggle for a lot of people, myself included. So the first thing you can do is call awareness to that and just know that it is an area you're going to need to pay attention to if you are pursuing weight loss goals. So where do we go from calories? So we talked about calories are king. Well, that means protein is queen. So calories are made up of macronutrients, which are carbs, fats, and proteins. So example of protein are lean meats, eggs, egg whites, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, milk, nuts, and beans. That is not an all-inclusive list, but that is a really good high-level example of different places you can get your protein from. So when trying to lose weight, paying attention to protein is really important. It helps keep you feeling full and satisfied longer. It helps build and repair muscle. When you consume protein with your meal, it helps reduce cravings and prevent overeating. It helps regulate hormones that control appetite. It helps your body break down fat more effectively. Protein is actually very difficult for the body to store as fat. It is an essential fuel source for our body, so we're regularly tapping into that protein. And your body uses more energy to break down the protein during digestion. So it's expensive to burn, so to speak. So protein can be a struggle for people. So let me give you some tips and tricks that's really helpful when it comes to paying attention to your protein consumption. Well, first and foremost, we got to talk about how much protein should you be consuming. A really good rule of thumb is about 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight per day. If you want to make it easy, just use 1 gram per pound of body weight. So if I weigh 130 pounds, I would aim to consume around 130 grams of protein per day. If you are just getting started and you're like, whoa, this is really overwhelming, just use the number of 120 grams per day. That's a really good benchmark just for adults across the board. As you get further in your journey, you can start to get more specific, but that's a really good starting point if you feel like the 1 pound per pound of body weight is just too much. So building each meal and snack that you have each day around protein makes hitting your goal that much easier. So each time you're going to eat, you're thinking about where is my protein coming from? And that's not only when you're eating, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, for example, but if you are having snacks in there, making sure that they include protein. That's the tricky part. Snacking tends to come in the forms of carbs and fats way more often than it does protein. Find snacks that you enjoy that contain protein. Do a little research. Go give some different ones a try. Do a little trial and error so you can start to really hone in on, a handful of snacks that you enjoy that include protein that's going to help get to that target that much easier. The easiest way to increase protein, that you consume each day is by increasing the portion size of the protein that you are already consuming. So if you are serving yourself 4 ounces of chicken, instead of serving yourself 4, serve yourself 6, for example. So focusing on a minimum of 30 grams of protein at each meal is going to make hitting that overall goal of 120, 130, whatever your number is, grams of protein each day that much easier. The other thing that I have found to be really helpful is to find high protein food swaps. So swapping regular yogurt for Greek yogurt, or instead of a granola bar, you opt for a high protein bar. Instead of pasta, you use chickpea pasta. Instead of eggs, you use egg whites, or you combine the two. Those are some really easy tips and tricks that might help you get closer to your protein goal each day. Those are things that you can use not only now, but when you are working to maintain the weight that you lose. So we go from protein, where are we going next? Portions. So portions are everything. What gets measured gets managed. And so we need to pay really close attention to our food and our calories. Most people have no idea how much they are consuming, how much food they are consuming in a day. Eyeballing is a really, really poor strategy for weight loss. I know for me, I just simply cannot be trusted. I will overserve myself all the live long day because your girl likes to eat. So it's learning to use a food scale is so very important. It is a skill that is going to help you get to your goal way faster, and then also maintain your results. I want you to remember though, if you're getting started and you're using a food scale and you're tracking your food and it is feeling tedious, I want you to know that it's a means to an end. The idea is that you are learning this skill so you can create an awareness around what appropriate portions look like. It will start to become second nature, and then eventually you can transition away from using those tools of tracking and weighing. But for me, for example, I still use it because I need for my goals to ensure that I'm consuming adequate protein each day. So I need to weigh that and make sure that I'm doing that. And so I still continue to use a food scale. Now, I'm not logging all of my food because I'm not currently in a weight loss mode, but I still do use my food scale consistently. So I have many clients that will continue to use it forever. I have clients that transition away from it and move more to an intuitive eating type strategy, but they have laid the foundation of learning and understanding what an appropriate portion looks like. So learning to use a food scale, like I mentioned, it's going to help ensure that you have that adequate protein intake. It's going to help you track and manage your calorie consumption accurately. So keeping a food diary in an app like MyFitnessPal or Macros First is highly encouraged. You'll be able to use the food scale to enter your portion sizes into those apps. Even an old-fashioned pen and paper food diary is better than nothing. Many studies show that people that simply write down everything they eat in a day lose more weight than those that don't. So meet yourself where you're at. It's a really good when you're going to approach weight loss is to take a step back and assess where you are. Are you in a place where you're ready to start doing these different actions? If not, if all of these things sound super overwhelming, maybe instead of tracking everything you eat, you start by simply tracking and being aware of your protein. And instead of tracking calories, overall calories, you're just making sure that you are getting in 120 grams of protein each day. So then you are only weighing the protein, for example. And then once you get into that, and that is feeling easy, you understand what you're doing, then you can layer on more complex strategies. So now you're tracking all your food, for example. There is no rule that says you have to start doing all the things all at once. I am a huge believer that starting small is a much better strategy than trying to do it all. Because remember, this is going to probably take a little bit longer than we would like it to. And so starting at a place where you can build upon the actions that you're doing is much better than going at it really hard for 2 weeks and going, okay, I can't do this. It's too hard. It's too much. So taking a step back, and we'll talk a little bit about this in the mindset portion, is really, really important because you've got to be very transparent and honest with yourself about where you are. Are you mentally ready to make these changes? Because here's the thing, we're talking about making behavior changes. And making changes to your behavior is not easy. So if you're doing any of these things already, or you're thinking about doing them, and you get into it and you're like, dang, this is hard, I want you to know that that is normal. Remember, everything worth doing in life, for the most part, it's hard at first. And then it gets easier, right? I promise you it gets easier. So let's move on. Let's talk about the next key component to weight loss, daily purposeful movement. So just like we were talking about when it comes to tracking your food, you have to consider where are you starting from and what is achievable and realistic based on your life. If your day is totally jam-packed and you can barely get through it and you're falling into bed at night, you're going to have to be really strategic and think through, okay, if I'm going to start doing daily purposeful movement and making sure that I'm moving my body, how am I going to fit that in? And you may need to get creative. That may mean, do you need to wake up earlier? Can you take a walk at lunch? Can you take conference calls while you're walking? Can you pop in your earbuds and take those while you're walking? Can you start to park further away, for example? You have to also ask yourself, what are you mentally ready for? Are you ready to dive into a workout program? If so, if that's exciting to you or if you're interested in that, then by all means. But if you're like, okay, whoa, you're telling me that I need to start moving my body more, and that in and of itself seems very overwhelming. I'm very sedentary. I get up and I go to work and that's all that I do. Then maybe what you need to start doing is focusing on increasing your daily step count, and not even to say, oh, you have to get 10,000 steps a day. Maybe you simply start wearing a pedometer, whether that is, an Apple Watch or one that you clip onto your pants or whatever. It doesn't need to be fancy. And you see that on average, maybe you only average around 4,000 steps a day. So instead of going, oh, now I've got to get to 10, why don't we try to increase it by 2,000 each day for a week? So that 4,000 goal becomes, or daily movement becomes 6,000, and you do that for a week. And then the next week you go, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to go to 7, and then to 8, and then to 9 and 10, etc. And again, figuring out when are you going to fit that into your day. So many people will dive into saying, oh, I'm gonna try to lose weight, and they don't even take the time to take a look around and go, okay, but what does my life currently support? What do I need to move around so that I can support myself in this effort, in this journey that I'm going on? And it's a really important piece of the overall puzzle if you desire to be successful in the long run. And I know that everybody that comes to the table with the goals of wanting to lose weight, they desire to be successful. And if you struggle, it's not because you're a failure, and it's not because you're weak. It's because it's actually really hard. So making sure that you're setting up your environment and your life in a way that supports these goals that you're working towards is a really, really important piece to this puzzle. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I think as I'm explaining this, it probably is starting to make some sense to you. Yes, calories are important. Yes, protein is important, but how are we going to make this all work in your life? That's a piece of this puzzle that you're going to want to sort through. Asking yourself, what kind of exercise do you love? What do you enjoy? What type of movement do you enjoy? The best exercise is going to be the one that you continue to do. Sure, we can get technical and I can tell you about all the reasons why strength training 4 to 5 times a week is a far superior form of exercise, right? But if you're not willing to do it and you don't like it and it makes you miserable, it's not going to work for you. So start thinking about what kind of exercise you love. And if you don't know, give them a try. There are so many free online resources. Go out to YouTube, type, follow along strength training, follow along HIIT workout, follow along yoga, follow along Pilates. It is all out there. It is free. It is available to you and accessible. Start to try different things on and see what feels good. One of the best places to start, though, is simply increasing your daily step count. It's accessible to every single person. It's linked to improved cardiovascular health. And remember, a body in motion stays in motion. It can actually increase your daily energy levels. So one of the things that I do, I have a desk job. I sit a lot throughout my day. And there are times I'm at my desk and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so tired. My focus is waning. I'm starting to get distracted. I'm hitting that like 2 p.m. post-lunch crash. I have a not fancy at all walking pad that I will walk on very slowly. And it is amazing energy boost and the focus that it brings. And so that has been a huge game changer for me. And I know that that's not accessible for everyone, but what is getting up from your desk and taking a 5-minute breather and taking a stroll around the office or around the block or whatever the case may be, to push through that. And you will be amazed at how much more energy you feel like you have simply by doing that. Parking further away from the store, that's one that took me a really long time to start doing. I only really started doing that more recently. And that's another way to increase your step count. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Again, like I mentioned, take 5 to 10 minute walk breaks throughout your day. Grab an office buddy if you can. Take calls while you're walking if you're someone that takes a lot of calls. And that you can be away from your desk for that. Absolutely, though, there are creative ways to fit it into your day. Focusing on a daily step count is great because it helps you stay active. And the more active you are, the more calories you burn and the more weight you're going to lose. From here, where I would recommend going, as I mentioned previously, is advancing your way to strength training. Strength training is going to build muscle, which boosts your metabolic rate, which in turn helps you burn more calories at rest. So that it starts to get a little bit more complicated, right? As we start to talk about layering these different approaches on. But if I had to kind of give you or summarize my top 3 tips when it comes to focusing on your purposeful movement, it would be to 1, work on your step count. 2, determine what kind of exercise do you love, try some different ones on, and then consider adding in strength training. So we've talked about calories, we've talked about protein, we've talked about movement. What else did we talk about? Portions, right? It's food scale. And then now we have to talk about planning. So if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, says our friend Benjamin Franklin. And I have to say, I think he's right. You're gonna have to plan things like, what are you eating each week? What are you eating each week? When can you exercise? How are you going to handle special occasions? How are you going to handle the weekends? These are all things we need to consider. Also consider, like we talked about, where are you currently? Does it make sense for you to dive right in and track the food, track the protein, track the calories, do strength training, do 10,000 steps a day? Are you there? Are you ready for that? You might be, and if you are, that's amazing. But if not, you got to walk before you run. So where are you going to start? There's no right or wrong answer. It's going to look a little bit different for every single person. And I think that's the beauty in all of this. You can tailor something to you. You're going to have to do the work in order to see the results that you desire. But that's all part of this planning. So we talk about determining a weekly meal plan. What are you going to eat each week? Do you have things in your week? If you're a parent and you've got kids and activities, are there nights that dinner's a struggle? If so, you might need to consider batch cooking. Can you cook a few things on Sunday? One of the strategies, like if you came to my house, the one thing that you will almost always find in my refrigerator is some sort of pre-cooked protein, meaning it is browned ground beef, or it is shredded chicken from the crock pot in various forms. I have all sorts of different flavors and seasonings and forms that I can throw a meal together in like 5 minutes, and it's basically no cooking. It's with a bagged salad kit, or cauliflower rice stir fry, or in a wrap, on tacos, etc., etc. I can get that thrown together. I can get it thrown together faster than I can go through a fast food drive-thru. So that is one of my favorite strategies when we start talking about a weekly meal plan. That's a great way to start, right? And if you're like, I can't eat like that all the time, well, that's okay. You don't have to. As you get used to that, then maybe you start to, on Sunday or whatever day works for you, you start to peruse recipes and you try different things. So it's a goal of mine to try one new recipe each week. So that's part of my Saturday. And then I figure out, okay, what groceries do I need? And I make sure that I have time carved out to obtain those in whatever way that is. So for some of you, that's going out and physically shopping for your groceries. I hate grocery shopping. That is one thing that I am just like, no, thank you. So I opt to have grocery delivery. That's something that works really well for my family with the season that we're in right now. I have 2 young kids, and so getting out and doing all that can be a little bit overwhelming. So that is one of the barriers that it's one of the budgetary things where we put our money there versus somewhere else, because it's really important to us and to our family. When you're making food choices, they have to be intentional. So planning, if you have a dinner with or a work lunch, right? So you have a work lunch and you're making your food choices, being intentional about those choices. So asking yourself and remembering that how you want to feel in the future has to matter a whole lot more than how you want to feel right now. Meaning, right now, it probably feels really good to eat a chocolate chip cookie, but if that doesn't kind of fit into your overall plan for the day, future you might not be so happy that current you made that decision. So making decisions like that, or maybe it's a work lunch, it's not like a special occasion, and maybe it's not your favorite food or whatever. So you want to stay focused on making sure that you're eating something that's within your calorie budget, you're leading with protein, but you're saving maybe some additional calories for this great dinner that you know that you're going to have at home, or this weekend you know it's going to be pizza night on Friday with your family and you really look forward to that. So that's when you're going to indulge versus indulging right now during a lunch that maybe you're not so excited about or that really just doesn't make sense. It's the same concept on the weekends. How are you going to handle it? What do you have on your calendar? Not every weekend can be treated like a special occasion. The biggest place that I see people really mess things up with their weight loss efforts is on the weekends. They crush it Monday through Friday, the weekend hits, and it's like a free-for-all. And that's a goal killer. You can very easily push yourself into a maintenance mode by overeating on the weekends. Now, there are ways that you can work around a little bit of that. You could do a little bit of calorie cycling, and at a very high level, what that would look like is eating less calories, maybe Monday through Friday, and then saving some extra for Saturday and Sunday. But the overall net impact is the same amount of calories over a 7-day period of time. That's a strategy that I teach many of my clients, but that's more of an advanced concept. Some of you may even be unintentionally doing that now. But thinking through what's on your calendar. Do you have kids' sporting events? Okay, great, you do. So you know that you really struggle not to hit up the concession stand because you go and you're hungry, and I get it. Okay, we're gonna have to pre-pack some food. Make sure, do you have them on hand? You can't pack them if you don't have them. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to some of this planning. It doesn't have to be this big thing, but we've got to be forward thinking. How to handle special occasions. I believe life is for living. I don't think you should deprive yourself of all the foods that you love in an effort to lose weight, but you have to be intentional about it. So that means treat the special occasion like the special occasion, but every Saturday and Sunday can't be that. It can't be that. So something to think about. And I want you to remember this. What you do consistently matters so much more than what you do occasionally. So let me give you a perfect example of this. I get a lot of questions around how to handle vacations. And look, I feel like vacations are a time to enjoy and relax. It is not a time to stress over what you are eating, unless you desire to do that, right? If that's where you are in your journey and that's what you want to do, then more power to you. But what matters more than what you do when you're on vacation is having a game plan when you get back. Because vacation is occasional, right? We're not on vacation, 30 weeks out of the year. I'm sure many of us wish we were, but it's occasional. So what we do consistently, all those other weeks of the year that we're not on vacation, matters a whole lot more than what you do in a 7-day period of time. And there's only so much damage you can do in 7 days. So having a game plan for when you get back is really what matters. And so that concept is applied to exercise and to weekends and all of that. What we do consistently matters much more than what we do occasionally. So that brings us to mindset. How you mentally approach this, it can really have a significant impact. So I would implore you to ditch the all or nothing mindset. And what I mean by that is I will see people have a few good days. They are on track, they hit their calories, they hit their protein, they got their workouts in, and then they have an off day for whatever reason. Maybe they didn't plan, maybe their day didn't go as planned. Maybe they have a sick kid at home, or something unexpected happens, or whatever. Or maybe they had a moment of weakness, guilty. And so they fall off for that day, and then they go, and it's a Wednesday, and they're like, I messed up. It's Wednesday. I'll get back on track on Monday. And then Monday rolls around and they're like, oh crap, I forgot to get my groceries. So here I am. I'm not prepared. So I guess I'll get back on track next Monday. And you can see where this is going. I want you to ditch the all or nothing mindset. Okay, so you had an off whatever. Can you get back on track at the next meal, snack, workout, whatever it may be? It's not, you have to do everything perfect or you should do nothing. Getting away, the all or nothing mindset is the biggest killer of goals that like I can even tell you about. So if you can get away from that, it is going to help you tremendously. Being focused on progress over perfection. Can you focus on being 1% better every day? So maybe you weren't perfect today, but can you be 1% better tomorrow? And I know that you might go, 1%? That means this is going to take forever. Well, so this is how I like to look at my 1%. Every day that I'm 1% better, I like to pretend like it's money. It's like $1 that I'm picking up, or $100, whatever's incentivizing to you. And I put it into my purse. And I do that 365 days. I do that for a year. Well, guess what? I'm going to have a whole lot of 1% in my purse by the end of this year. So it adds up. What I'm saying is if you can focus on being 1% better every single day, that's going to add up to stunning results over time. Newsflash, this is probably going to take longer than you'd like. So we should just put it out there. We should stop approaching this as I'm going to crush it for 6 weeks. I'm going to follow, XYZ program to a T, and then I'm going to go back to my old ways. That almost never works. It almost never works. So if you can get into your mind that, you know what, this is probably going to take a little bit longer than I would like, it's also going to help you understand and begin to realize that this is a never-ending journey. So you've got to find ways to make this process enjoyable. And part of that for me is I want to live life. I want to have donuts with my kids on the weekends. I want to have food freedom and flexibility. So that means some days I'm going to make healthier choices so that I can make a more indulgent choice on the weekend. Things like that. And listen, I've been doing this for a really long time. I gained a few pounds over the holidays, and I know exactly what it is I should be doing, but I'm a human being. So now I'm in the process of undoing that. And that's what I mean when I say it's a journey. Like, life is going to happen. Things are going to happen. And so creating a lifestyle around all of this is so, so, so important and often overlooked. Unfortunately, we have been conditioned to want quick, instant gratification and results. And this particular process is one of those that just does not work well for. If you can approach this from the perspective of, I want to build routines and habits and a lifestyle that supports this overall goal that I'm trying to achieve, and then I already have these areas in place that were going to help me maintain it, you are going to be so much more successful than you would if you were just like, I'm going to white knuckle it for a period of time to get myself to my goal. I'm going to deprive myself from all the things that I love. Well, then you're going to get to the other side and you're not going to know how to sustain it for the long haul. And then you're going to have to do it all again. No, thank you. No, thank you. I've been there, I've done that, and it's not so much fun. So it's a much better approach to be looking at this from a big picture perspective than looking at it from a super narrow view. So when we're talking the 6 keys to sustainable weight loss, number 1, calories. Number 2, protein. Number 3, portions. Number 4 is planning. 5 is movement matters, and 6 is mindset. I hope that you found this somewhat helpful. If you took a nugget away from this, or if this resonated with you, please share this episode to your Instagram stories. Tag me at Lindsey D. Bush. You never know who might need this message. I appreciate you listening so very much, and I look forward to talking to you on the next one. Talk to y'all soon. Love you. Bye.